In this video, we're going to assess the relationship between gender and development. Women used to be invisible in the study of development, but due to the growth of feminism, this has changed. It was part of the Millennium Development Goals to promote gender equality and empower women. However, this has been a slow progress, as there are only 20% of women in politics worldwide, and only 17 heads of state. So Modernization Theory or Integration Thesis believes that women are crucial to development and they need to be part of the workforce to create an expansion of industry, new business and economic growth. If women were given equal chances in the workforce, then it would liberate them and in turn reduce overpopulation because they will be too involved in their careers to have children. And Rostow believes that traditional cultures are patriarchal, and so the only way women can be liberated is to be integrated into society, which requires a cultural attitude change. This will lead to financial independence and less oppression. In terms of education, Bussercut believes that education is crucial for development because it raises economic productivity and will help to break the cycle of early childbearing. For example, there are over 14 million girls under 18 who are already mothers. And Modernization Theory believes that industrialization and multinational corporations would allow women to get financial independence from men. They believe that attitudes need to be changed so that male relatives see females as equal rather than just something they can use. However, the problem with Modernization Thesis is that it's too ethnocentric. The change that they want to happen in the developing world is based on the Western model of women, and even then there are still gender differences in the first world, such as the pay gap, as in the UK, women only get 85% to what men get. And you could also argue that some values do empower women, such as Muslim women wear burqas in order to protect themselves from the hands of men. So we move over to Marginalization Thesis, which is linked to dependency theory, and they argued that the introduction of capitalism led to women being increasingly excluded from societies, as Lenin believes that colonial powers came and imposed traditional Western views of men and women on indigenous people, and so new types of inequality was introduced. In terms of aid, the Marginalization Thesis believes that aid for development is not gender neutral, as it comes with Western views attached that are often male-dominated. For example, the exploitation of cash crops has resulted in men being hired to work rather than women, as men are seen as being able to handle intense labour. Also, only 3.4% of trained government workers who assist aid in agricultural advice are women, which may lead to increased marginalisation. You can also use the example of what happened during the Rwanda genocide to demonstrate how it took a gender-specific form, because over the course of 100 days, up to 500,000 women were raped, and the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda handed down the first conviction for the use of rape as a weapon of war during the civil conflict. So now if we talk about the Exploitation Thesis, which is based around neo-Marxism, and they believe that modernization imposes an exploitative global system of capitalism on developing societies. For example, TNCs relocate to EPZs, work is standardized and repetitive, and 90% of workers are young women. The exploitation takes place in several forms, and one of these being low pay, because women in EPZs are paid lower rates than male workers. Also, Western owners don't invest in training because work is regarded as unskilled despite high skills being needed. As women already have learned these skills at home, their work is then downgraded. Elson and Pearson believe that TNCs take advantage of, in quotes, women's material subordination as a gender. They argue that women put up with lower wages because there is no alternative in their society. This means that TNCs are able to control female workers. And Leonard believes that TNCs aim to exploit female labour rather than provide women with training, but Leonard argues that the wages they earn are superior to the subsistence living from rural existences. So now we're going to look at the solutions to gender inequality. Marxist feminists would argue that equality will only come when societies are willing to change their traditions and they are fully committed to maximising women's education and job opportunities. However, Elwood found that the Soviet Union stated that women can fly to the moon, but they still have to do the ironing when they get home. And liberal feminists have criticised radical feminists because they believe that men being the enemy did not address the problem, as women in the developing world faced other issues. Liberal feminists argue that women need to join men to fight exploitation due to the different priorities. For example, women in the developing world have been campaigning for better access to reproductive rights. Also, another theory and solution to gender inequality is put forward by postmodern feminists. They've drawn attention to how women have been constructed. For example, women are seen as ignorant, poor, and uneducated in the developing world compared to the educated and modern construction in the developing world. Mo Anthony believed that ethnocentrism and colonial attitudes are demonstrated through the names women are constructed to. Postmodern feminists also believe that globalization has led to common problems for women, such as sex tourism and prostitution, environmental degradation, and the debt crisis. So in conclusion, the relationship between gender and development looks hopeful for the future because the expansion of education is starting to become the norm. There has been an expansion of family planning, and the recognition of inequality is starting to become apparent. However, Van der Gaag believes that the future doesn't look good for women, as 60% of female adults are illiterate, 1/4 of men are beaten by their partner, and there has been an increased amount of sex trafficking. Another theory put forward is by Hunt, who believes that there is growing realization that by concentrating on women's research is neglected masculinity and how patriarchal ideas are formed by the crisis of masculinity.